Hello, darlings. Have you ever been in such a funk that you couldn't move? You couldn't answer the telephone. You couldn't pay a bill. You couldn't go out, unless, of course, it was for work. And then you would paint on your smile, do your job, come home, and then you'll be back to the same person again. If you've ever felt like this and you'd like to know how I coped with it and got out of it, then this video is for you. Back in the early 2000s, I had been through a terrible, terrible time with my third marriage. What I couldn't understand was how somebody who treated that person so well could be treated so shoddily. In the end, I had to end the marriage after 5 weeks. And only then did I appreciate that it wasn't a marriage after all. I was a project. From the get-go, as you say. And because of that, and because I couldn't understand it, it wasn't logical, I became depressed. I didn't want to go to the doctor, I didn't take medications, but I couldn't move. The only time I could move was if I had to take Katie to school, or go to a school thing, or if I had to go to work, because I had to earn money. I was left in a terrible financial position. And I had all the worry about that as well. So it's small wonder that I became depressed. I didn't know where things were going to go, whether Katie and I would be safe. And I spent a year like that. It was a gargantuan task to pay a bill. I would put it off and put it off. Because in those days I would go to the bank and pay it. These days I would have just done it online and still not gone out. I wouldn't go out unless I had to go to work, because obviously I had to earn money and I had my patients to see. I couldn't let them down. But I was in a terrible position, as I've said. I needed to sell my property. I needed to sell my house, and it wasn't finished. There were so many areas that weren't decorated. There were so many areas that were half finished. And I just didn't know what to do. And in the end, I think it came to one day when I thought, this can't go on. This really can't go on. I am going to either sink or I'm going to learn to swim. And I decided that one day I would do just one banister, one rung on my banister. I don't know what they're called, the little upright things. They'd been replaced and they were plain wood and they needed painting. But at the time it seemed like that staircase went on forever, and in fact it didn't. It was just a normal staircase, but in my mind it felt enormous and well beyond my capabilities. So I decided I would do just one. That's all I could manage that day, just one. If I could manage that, then I had triumphed. And in truth, that day I got out all the paintbrushes, the paint, the dust sheets so that I wouldn't splash paint anywhere. And I sat on that bare staircase and I started painting. Now those things are rotten to paint at any time. They're so fiddly and not enjoyable at all to paint. But I had made the commitment to do just one. And by doing just one, I did 2. And then I did 3. But then I'd had enough, so I stopped. I always say, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite at a time. Although that task seemed enormous and beyond my capabilities, all I had to do was one rung on that staircase. That's all. And in fact, I did 3. And over the next week or so, I repeated it until the entire thing was done. And then if the phone rang, more often than not, I wouldn't answer it because I was afraid. I was afraid it was going to be an official, it was going to be an inquiry from my solicitor. I just couldn't cope with any more. So I wouldn't answer it and I'd let it go to voicemail, but then I couldn't listen to it either. I was running away in my own home. And that became a problem too. So I would decide that I would answer one phone call. I wouldn't know who it was, but I only had to answer one phone call, one time. And in the end, that got me over that hump. I would liken depression like you are stuck in molasses. You can't go forward, you can't go back, you can't go sideways because you are stuck. You are stuck in fear and a whole host of other things I can't even begin to tell you. Insecurity, I never knew what was happening next. Or what was my husband, who I was divorcing, what would he get up to next? Because he'd proven himself to be a liar. But I could take control of myself. One evening, a girlfriend of mine came round. I was in my pajamas. It was 5:30. And she said, "Imogen, you're going to come out with me. You are going to come out." And I said, "No, I can't. I can't." And she was very bossy. And she took me to a local wine bar. I didn't drink, but I went there and I was thoroughly miserable. I wished that I hadn't gone, but she thought she was doing right by me. But I did think that it was time that I started doing things out of my comfort zone. And I would go out maybe one day, but not for a while. I had to plan everything. If I wanted to pay a bill, if I wanted to answer the telephone. The only thing I didn't have to plan, because it was set in stone, was going to work on the days that I worked, because they were in the diary and I had that commitment. And nobody would have known what I was going through at the time, because I'm very good at masking and putting on a smile. But it was terrible. I would say it's worse than the year after my son died, because that wasn't depression, that was grief. And the two aren't the same. You know why you're grieving. But when you don't know why somebody has treated you so reprehensibly, it is not logical why they would do that, when had they just been honest and kind, they could have had everything. Well, in fact, I think he thought that he'd had everything. He'd had a vast amount of money from me. And then he'd married me and thought, I'll get her house as well and her flat. Thank goodness that didn't come off. But for a while he'd put a charge on them. So that was another worry. But if you're suffering from depression, it is only really you that can get yourself out of it, like I did. I had to dig deep to answer that telephone. I had to dig deep to paint one rung on that staircase. And I can't say any of it was easy, because anything worthwhile seems not to be easy. But the more you do it, the more steps you take to dig yourself out of it, those muscles become stronger, and you realize that you can cope. You can cope. You can start to rebuild yourself, bit by bit, a bit like the $6 million man. And slowly but surely, you find that you get better. It does take time. But if you treat every little triumph as a major thing in your day, and you celebrate it and realize how far you've come in the last year, then you will get over it. You will dig yourself out of it. I never went on medication. But I did get over it. I did dig myself out of it. One step, one tiny bite at a time. That's how I cope with most things. One little bite at a time. We can cope with anything if we break it down into small bits. What we can't do is give up, ever. Because you're stronger than that. We've all got it in us. We've all got it in us to help ourselves, because we are our best advocates on everything, whether it's your health, whether it's depression, or anything. We all have our own best interests at heart, and it's up to us to look after ourselves first before we can look after anyone else. So if this is you, darling, then just one bite will do it. The first bite is the hardest. And after a while you'll see that the elephant is gone. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Lots of love.